Hey everyone, this is Travis from Air Rifle Technology and Jefferson State Air Rifles. Today we have the Umarex Gauntlet in 22 and we're going to go over some fixes for this and some upgrades and how we can make this gun perform much better and be much more pleasurable for you. This gun came to me brand new out of the box, unable to fire. After taking apart the trigger assembly, it was pretty apparent what the issue was. There's this very heavy spring right here. This is your return spring. It's your trigger pull adjustment spring. It's pretty stiff. So when you cock the gun back, it's putting so much load on the sear that after you fire it, to get it to go back, I would have to pull the trigger back to get the sear to come back around. It would stick on top of the sear, unless I loosened it up really loose like I have it now. And that's what I did originally. I just loosened the screw up. The only problem now is that now it's got a lot of free play in here. It has a very soft first stage and then a really hard second stage. So what this does is it gives you a very squishy feeling trigger to start with and really stiff, which is about backwards of what you would want. You would normally want soft first stage, and then it all get caught up, and then a gentle breaking of the second stage. This really isn't a two-stage trigger, but it was acting that way because of the spring adjustment here. So we're going to take the spring out, the factory spring. And here it is. It's a stiff little guy. It's pretty hard to compress even with your fingers. It's just very stout. So we're going to replace that guy there with this longer but much softer spring out of a ink pen. Now this will do two things for us. It will take up the free play that the other spring had when we loosened it up, so we didn't have our sear binding up and we're unable to cock our gun, and it'll make it much easier to pull the trigger and break the sear free, which will feel 100,000 times better. So now we got a nice soft spring. So we're going to cock the gun again. I want you to focus right here on the sear. Go ahead and take it down there, Sean. So when I cock it, you can see how much travel there is between the sear, the trigger and the top of the sear. This is the area it has to overcome before the sear will release the hammer. Okay, so see how far it goes? It's a lot of take up. So to get rid of that take up, there's this screw down here at the bottom where I'm going to put my Allen wrench in right here. We're going to just slowly tighten that spring, that Allen up. You're going to watch that sear climb. And we're going to leave just a little bit of that sear hanging right at the top. Now this is going to take up all of that drag and give us a much shorter, crisper break. Okay, so here we go again. Now watch this. Much better. Cock it again. Much better. Now, to prevent all of this over travel of the trigger, once we get the sear to break, we use our over travel adjustment, which is the lowest one to the trigger. So we're going to start working it in, and then we'll make adjustments as we go. So we're going to pull it, make sure it breaks. and we're going to hold it where it breaks, and we're just going to tighten it up just till it touches, and then back it off a half a turn. Now that should give us the least amount of sear drag, least amount of over travel, and a nice soft trigger that we're not fighting, and we can focus on the target. Bam. Okay, so that takes care of stage 1 of fixing the Umarex. The second part of our fix we'll discuss, but we'll show the actual repair in part B. This gun is incredibly hard to cock. My wife couldn't cock it, I have a hard time cocking it, and I'm just using this to engage this while we're doing the trigger. And it was pretty apparent when I pulled the hammer spring out why. The hammer spring, in here, is a 26 pound-spring. Now, to compare that to other air rifles, we'll say like a Benjamin Marauder that uses a 6 to 8 pound spring. This is 3 times the pull. So here's the little guy right here. It has a 0.50 spring diameter, 0.343 OD, and it is 2.3 inches long. We calculate that out, that gives us 26 inch-pounds. That is a ton of spring for any gun, especially a low-powered 22 that's regulated down to 1250 psi. We should easily be able to open this valve up with a 6 to 8 pound spring, and possibly even less. So our next step is going to be to figure out why they're using such a heavy spring. There's only 3 things that could possibly be. 1, the engineers got it wrong. 2 is the valve has a really stiff return spring in it, and you need a stiff hammer spring to overcome the spring in the valve that closes it. And the third is it has a really large poppet, and large poppets have a lot of force acting on them to hold them closed. So that'll be step B in fixing the Umarex. Alright guys, thanks.